It was the busiest day, one of the busiest days that we've seen in a long time. There were the second most trades in a day since 1990 at the trade deadline day. And we saw today the Washington Commanders move on from two defensive linemen, Montez Sweat to Chicago for a second-round pick, Chase Young to the 49ers for a third-round pick. We saw the 49ers or the Vikings trade away Ezra Cleveland and also then trade for Josh Dobbs. We saw the Cleveland Browns trade Donovan Peoples-Jones to Detroit and Rasul Douglas go from Green Bay to Buffalo. And we also didn't see, despite any speculation, a number of players traded that were rumored to potentially be dealt. Saquon Barkley stayed in New York. Devontae Adams stayed in Las Vegas. Derrick Henry stayed in Tennessee. The Denver Broncos didn't move on from Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, or Patrick Surtain. There were a lot of players who were rumored to be moving who never moved, but there were a slew of moves today, headlined by the moves made by the Washington Commanders and the San Francisco 49ers, who added Chase Young for a compensatory third-round draft pick.
We love it. And Adam, you were tracking all of it. Thanks for the latest here on our show, as well as our SportsCenter special before this one. Let's get to the Lions adding a piece to their wide receiver room, trading sixth-round pick to Cleveland for Donovan Peoples-Jones. Hawk, what does this do for that Lions pass game in your mind?
I like that. Now, you can make the argument that there were other positions of interest that would have boded better for the Lions, like the defensive line, like we've seen some other NFC teams make the move. But Donovan Peoples-Jones has a ton of a talent. Not only that, like there were times in Cleveland where he looked like a number one receiver. Yeah. Now you couple that with the Marvin Jones absence and that void they're trying to fill as far as how versatile that receiver group is. DPJ steps in there beautifully and maybe even a step up because he's a younger player. He's a native of Detroit. So I think this makes a lot of sense. Like to Marcus's earlier point, maybe they go in a different direction, but what's available at wide receiver, DPJ is a great pickup. Well,
they lost Marvin Jones a couple weeks ago, who went to go be with his family. And so you're sitting there going, well, there's a little bit of a void at wide receiver. I love Donovan Peoples-Jones' size for this offense. It's a play-action-based offense, so the bigger that you have size-wise of guys crossing the middle of the field, Josh Reynolds and him now are bigger perimeter players to go along with an Amon-Ra St. Brown. My big takeaway is this. If you're Cleveland, and if I was Deshaun Watson, who I would imagine they hope at some point gets back on the field, who do I get to throw to? I mean, Amari Cooper and their tight end and Njoku's playing really well, but Donovan Peoples-Jones I had felt was a reliable player for them. So they have Coop, who's no question a one, and Elijah Moore, who's had some moments, and David Bell, who's had some moments. But I really thought if I was the starting quarterback of a team that was hopefully going to get healthy and then take us on a playoff run, I would want a guy who at least is a number 2 or a number 3 in the NFL.
Yeah, Dio, we was there last night talking to Brad Holmes, the GM for Detroit, and he talked about how they just want to continue to bring guys that kind of in lines with their identity as a football team. And when you got to the size, the physicality part is what I'm reminded of. You think about Detroit, too, to your point with the size, like who is the 50-50 ball winner on this team? Outside of Laporta, who is at tight end. I think Peoples-Jones is a guy that comes in not only red area-wise, but also we saw last night that they want to hand this rock off a couple of times. So a big physical presence on the outside as well. This is I don't know if people would deem this a necessity, but being there last night, having a conversation with the general manager, you understand this pick from a type of guy standpoint. And it feels to me like when you think about Dan Campbell, remember, Peoples-Jones went to Michigan as well. So he is about to be back in familiar territory. He understands what this city is all about and what this organization is trying to do. And coming off a conversation when we talk about the identity of a football team being one of their calling cards and how they like to play football, I think this is a great move for Detroit. But I think it's more in line with who they are as an organization and a franchise mentality-wise, more so than a need that would have changed a lot about who they are as a football team.
Yeah, you mentioned the Browns side of this. I wondered if they would try to add a quarterback, maybe Jacoby Brissett, and Adam told us not happening. He ends up being, of course, right about that. But a team that did add a quarterback for some help, it makes a whole lot of sense. Josh Dobbs going to the Vikings, and he brings some ability to rush with that Vikings offense. As we talk a little bit more about him leaving Arizona, he has 258 rushing yards this season. There's been some inconsistency there, Dan, but what does he bring to Minnesota, especially now that they don't have Kirk Cousins available?
Yeah, certainly starting experience and reliable experience. He's had some really good moments. There were some highs to start this year for Josh Dobbs in Arizona. I don't get it, if I'm being honest, with Minnesota. This does nothing for you to answer the quarterback question of the future. Josh Dobbs he's probably better than a throw him around backup, but he's maybe not proven enough to be like, hey, that bridge quarterback. And so I've said this, Minnesota, you have to figure out how to keep Justin Jefferson. This does nothing for that. And if it's going to help you win a couple games, it does nothing for the Caleb Williams or Drake May sweepstakes.
Yeah. All right. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Jaren Hall starting at quarterback there this week, and then Nick Mullins supposed to get healthy the following week. We got.
It's my laugh.
That was
Marcus, who was it?
That was Michael Vick. And listen, it's not a coincidence that his name is Michael along with Michael Myers, because he gave everybody hell. And nobody was happy about having to play against him. I remember our first game against him in Atlanta. You walk into the stadium and there's 7 jerseys everywhere. It's like you getting squeezed by the lure of Michael Vick, and you afraid, because if he takes off, nobody's gonna catch him. If you have the right defense call, he's still gonna score a touchdown and run out the end of the bag of the end zone, and for an in-game celebration. Michael Vick, absolutely the scariest player I've ever played against, and I never wanted to play him again.
Hawk, who scared you when they lined up on the other side of the ball?
Troy Polamalu, that's an easy one. Very, very scary dude. The reason why he's so scary is because he doesn't talk trash in this traditional way. He actually doesn't talk that much trash. He's actually a beautiful human being.
Yeah.
But when he tells you he's going to get you, he means it. And he says it in the most mild-mannered way, and he says, I'm going to get you, 16. And he doesn't crack a smile, and you're not sure. Yeah, no, my knee, watching this highlight, my knee hurts. There are 4 other of these clips from Troy, because he's also the only person that hit me low. Now, I'm only 5'7", so I'm not used, I don't know how to defend people going low on me. And so every time it was like a hot, that clip goes viral every 6 months.
Coach, he made you breakdance spin on the side.
Exactly.
Like, we didn't need to say that. Okay, all right.
My mom was in attendance.
Oh, your poor mama.
She had to watch that live. Marcus.
Dan, scariest defender in your.
All of them. Man, I'm going to say Terrell Suggs. I remember going on the road to play against Baltimore. And we were playing, this is the freaking game, you guys didn't even notice. And we put in our game plan, I said, yo, what's the plan for Terrell Suggs? Our left tackle was beat up here. And they were like, nothing. I'm like, we're not going to do anything. I think he had 4 sacks this game. I'm not joking when I say this. We won him Defensive Player of the Year this year. This was in 2011. And I remember after the game walking to them buses, and I was like, my body has never felt this bad in my life.
Dan, 12 years later, and your game against Suggs, still the last time that any player forced 3 fumbles by the same quarterback in a game.
Wait, I fumbled 3 times?
You did, yeah. I mean,
man.
It was because of Suggs, yeah.
I mean, can we chip, double team, something?
Something.
He said, I got his number, I'm good. All right, more coming your way on NFL Live as we continue our